The Enlightenment Chasers. Today is December 11th of 2024. Another Wednesday, my water day. The day of refreshing of the mind. The enlightenment only becoming greater and calling on all to come to their senses. Who we truly are, the mind, battlefield free. We are more than the physical we see. We are more than the man and woman we see. We are more than the man and woman we identify ourselves with. We are more than the humanity we embrace. This moment is very important and vital in our lives, but it is only a piece of the greater we are. We are on a journey to perfection. Have I been emphasizing on ice, liquid, and the gaseous state? Where we understand, according to physics, that the gaseous state is the most free state of our being, where there is no collision, is where we seek to be. Where there is no collision, all particles are invisible. We are the one perfect, invisible particle that has no pieces to compete with. The mind, battlefield free. We must reverse to. All going back into one. The strongest bond of that one will be. Last Wednesday, I tried for us to understand our struggles presenting with political experiment. Politics is spirituality. Politics is from the mind. There is no movement out here that has no peace is end goal. It may have shortcomings, but its outcome is always expecting to be perfect peace. I try for us to understand that the presidential election this year, 2024, had some identifications. Had some attentions drawn to us. The President Trump had 49.9% of the vote, and Vice President Harris had 48.4% of the vote. It was a tight race. But how do we resolve this pressure point higher towards the women, which some identify to be sexism, being the reason of the struggle behind having a female president? It was not really about being democratic or being Republican, as some trying for us to understand, that it was more about sexism than politics. Even if it is, how do we resolve this so we do not have blindfolds disrupting our presidential elections? Obviously, it is not Vice President Harris's blame or fault, because it is expressed that even in the time of the Secretary of State's election with President Trump, there was struggle with sexism involved than politics. Even if it is, what do we do is the question here today. I still raise this before us today while we're closing down 2024. We're looking forward to another election, presidential election, in 4 years. How do we resolve this if a woman has to be in the place of a presidential election in the coming years? What is it that we women need to work upon to resolve this fault of sexism showing up whenever a woman represents us during the elections? The G, the LGBTQ, presenting to us the struggle with sexism and a very high concern at this time, reminding us the system is governed by the people or eligible members of the state, typically through elected representatives. We elect our representatives. It's interesting how the minority still speaks than the majority, such that even when we adults are the ones electing, the children are still winning. Their voices are still being heard, even without their votes. Why is this so? Because it is all about justice. It is all about justice and being true to ourselves. We could be the people, yet the voice of the weak, more louder than the strong. I know we always emphasize that the strong are the ones always winning, but to look at it twice, it is the weak that is winning and not the strong. The cry of a child will always need some work to be done. Even when you fail the child, it means you have work to do to raise the child to a passing rate or a passing state. A child is never wrong, but we responsible of the children. A student is never wrong, but the teacher. But if the teacher should fail the student, then the teacher should be able to teach the student. If the student doesn't want to learn, then the teacher must explain the reason why the other is a student. The teacher must figure it out of why the other is a student. An opponent can only make either side a student, needing to listen to each other. But in this case of sexism being a problem when it comes to women and the LGBTQ, rioting, the born of a woman rioting, the cry of the LGBTQ is also speaking in the place of the president. The need to cease multiplying. All about a woman's body. It is a woman's right to make the choice. But yet the child speaks louder, even though the child's voice may not be important to the woman. Coming to my senses and understanding after having children, I begin to realize how much we shut the voice of a child, but still it speaks louder than our voices. Because the way they will react, they speak by their actions than their words. And all you can do is either educate them or stay blaming yourself, calling yourself the winner or the parent does not make us fulfill our purpose of caring. If we say we care about our body, it is obvious that we have first cared about the child. Before we nurse the child in the womb, we must have first of all know our bodies. Sometimes we may say we do not know our bodies until we are pregnant. We do not know our bodies until we have a baby in the womb. Things start changing. These changes start happening even at puberty. Some having the best puberty and the worst pregnancies. Some having the worst pregnancies and they're being told that the solution is to have a child to resolve the, the trauma that comes with puberty. If we should seize puberty, would that be effective for a woman? Because a woman's body does not only have trouble with having a baby, but even at puberty, before even a baby is mentioned. How do we women resolve this our sexism struggles, keeping us behind men, having to stay home with the children, such that even a man chooses to stay home with a child to become a stay-home dad, the woman is always affected. No matter how many dads choose to stay home, the system will never be like if a woman stays home with a child instead and the father goes to work. All this only to inform us if we really want our best, we must sacrifice what is not what to be in our way. It is not the baby, but the acts. We are not blaming it on babies, but the actions, the acts we choose to practice that are like obstacles in our ways to present ourselves effective for election without sexism being a compromise. It is not about the child, but the actions towards puberty. Our actions towards puberty is what we need to work upon. If puberty is more than us to handle, there must be actions around puberty that can resolve our becoming of expected adults among men. Some women have really difficult puberty, much more like bearing a child. How do we disrupt this sexism, a malfunction upon women before men? LGBTQ is the greatest influencer on this topic in our lives, being women. Divided, we cannot stand. The healthiest state of our being is the holistic state of being. How do we become whole? How do we become one? Mind. A man's mind is not perfect, but it's the best that we have. How do we heal every other around it so that a man's mind can even become even perfected than what is experiencing? For we can understand that a man's mind can even be better than what the man's mind is experiencing because of the surrounding with disabilities, from a woman to the LGBTQ, rioting. If a part of our body is rioting or in pain, the all other parts struggle, may be at their best, but will not be perfect like if all parts of the body was fine. The little figure of speech that we can work with to really get to a place to educate we women healthily so we can even be of effective, worthy before men. We are not challenging men, and men should not be challenging us either, but rather helping us to come to our senses to realize that if puberty is already a struggle, what is the point of making another? Rather, we should try to walk around puberty. Our actions really matter. If we say we are for the people, being women, we'll be able to enable a transition with integrity and not despair. This is the call of enlightenment this week. Ending 2024 into 2025 should be bringing great minds to walk around our women realm, to engage with the men of effectively with no disruption. It's of the mind, while the body transitions with dignity to greater enlightenment. Thank you all for listening today. Happy Wednesday, my water day. Peace steals the storm, back to peace that has no storm, looking unto perfect peace.